Most of the horrifying research done by governments turned out to be in vain. And that's a fortunate thing. For example, MK-Ultra, the CIA's attempt at researching mind control, yielded no promising results. Imagine if it had worked and managed to get into the wrong hands. When these projects do work, they end in death for millions. See the atomic bomb. Man's hubris and unflinching thirst for knowledge remains to be unchecked. This is especially true for one organization, an institution that motivates those within its ranks to look for answers, find the truth, and leave no theory unsupported. That organization is Theorist Corp. The difference between the desert at noon and the desert at midnight are, well, night and day. When the sun is out, it's what you would expect. Scorching weather, few animals in sight, and an almost deafening silence. It's a different story at night. Near-frozen temperatures and the cacophony of noises from the hissing of snakes and the squeaking of rodents are commonplace. Still, tonight, the sound of Theorist Corps researchers overpowers them all. Roughly a dozen people packed into one of the meeting rooms in the facility. A glass container was on a table in the center, approximately a foot tall and filled with liquid. Floating inside was a green ooze, bobbing up and down. Eris Huey, this facility's resident biologist, fiddled with his thumb as he stared at the emerald goo move within its tank. He thought he'd be celebrated for his findings, but there was no cake, no confetti, or champagne in this meeting room. Just a bunch of people looking at him with ire. The door to the meeting room swings open, and a towering mammoth of a man enters. Arthur Rice. If anything was indicative of the dire nature of this meeting, it was Rice's arrival. Similar to how a principal would reprimand an unruly student, Arthur Rice was there to condemn Huey. He scans the room. His face is stern and unmoving. "Everyone here has level 5 clearance, correct?" Rice says. His booming voice startles Huey, causing him to jump. The statement brought with it the apparent authority of a leader. Everyone in the room holds a stark black badge that reads, Level 5 Clearance. Huey fumbles around to find his badge. His limbs frantically move to and fro as he searches every pocket for proof that he should be there. "It's okay, Huey. You can worry about your security clearance later," a voice says from across the room. "You'll likely be demoted after this anyway." The sentence sent a chill down Huey's spine. "Most of you know why you're here," Rice begins to speak. "However, I know some are unaware. I've consulted Dr. Cooker, Krauss, as well as Theorist Corps HQ. Unfortunately, we couldn't agree on the best course of action, so I thought it best to confer with all high-ranking personnel to find a solution." Krauss stands up and moves to stand next to Rice. Despite his stock appearance, he, like Rice, demanded a sense of respect. His nylon bomber jacket that distinguished him as a researcher held snugly to his body. He straightened his body and began to speak. "You've all been informed about the anomalous substance found on the expedition. HQ got reports of an object falling to Earth, so as a result, we investigated. It was not the fallen rock I had expected to see. It was what I could only describe as a vehicle. Inside was a green sludge splattered throughout the interior. In accordance with Theorist Corps protocol, we brought it back to the facility for testing. However, the thing in front of us is not from the vehicle." Krauss locks his eyes on the green goo in the container. Dr. Huey is responsible for the substance in front of us. Now he's claiming that it is alive. "I can confirm," Dr. Cooker speaks up. "It has what appears to be a nucleus and a food vacuole. I believe it is some type of single-celled organism. I also believe that the substance found was a dead member of the same species." "Okay, but how did Huey manage to make this thing?" a researcher from the back of the room yells. "I don't know. You'd have to ask him." Everyone's attention turns to Huey, sweating profusely, not from heat, but from anxiety. Huey, go ahead and explain. His heart pounds out of his chest. When I got the chance to look at the dozen or so eyes on him, only worsened the stress. To look at the sludge, I realized that it had some similarities to cytoplasm. I gathered a small portion of it and pieces of what I assumed to be a destroyed nucleus. Single-celled organisms like amoeba tend to reproduce by dividing in half, so I figured that parts of the nucleus would suffice. So I put them all together in this tube and began feeding it dead insects. After a few hours, it congealed into what you see now. Why didn't you consider informing us before you proceeded? Rice asks. His furrowed brow and wide eyes looked like he was trying to burn a hole through Huey's skull. It was just a theory. Isn't that what we're all about? Huey looks away from Rice's anger-contained eyes. A loud thud reverberates throughout the room as Rice's fist collides with the table. The glass tube wobbles, but Huey grabs it to stop it from falling. Your theory could get us all killed, Rice yells. Krause puts a hand on Rice's shoulder to tell him to calm down. Dr. Huey, we don't know what that is. We found it on a ship. We have to assume it's intelligent. For all we know, that could be capable of causing a Class 4 event or higher. We need to destroy it as soon as possible, Rice interjects. I agree, Krause says. No, you don't understand. Huey stands up but immediately sits back down when Rice's gaze meets his. This thing is in its infancy. It can't hurt anyone. He looks to Cooker for approval. Yes, if he's correct, if it was just born, then the chances of it being a threat are minimal. We should keep it and research it more. Exactly. It's basically a child. Even if the one you found was dangerous, this one knows nothing about that. Incorrect. Everyone looks around the room to find who spoke. Who said that? Asks Rice. I'm not in infancy at all. A frigid feeling worms its way down everyone's backs, and they look at the thing in the jar. A singular eye is formed on the surface of the thing's gelatinous body. That's it! Rice reaches for the glass container, but Huey snatches it off the table. What do you think you're doing? Huey ignores the large man and turns his attention to the thing. How can you communicate with us? This doesn't seem like proper TC protocol when engaging with an extraterrestrial. Shouldn't you inform HQ first? How does it know that? Rice frantically yells. It's been watching us, Krause answers. Not just humanity, but us particularly. Yes, but how does it specifically know that? It was born today, asks Cooker. Tell me, doctors, are you familiar with using DNA as digital data storage? The thing asks. Yes, the University of Washington has been doing it since 2013, says Cooker. Are you saying your species naturally stores memories as data in your DNA, and your offspring retrieves that data? Asks Huey. You really are intelligent, the thing says. Who cares? We know they've been watching us. We must get rid of it before it can report to its leaders, Rice demands. No, that's only more reason to keep it. We need information out of it, Cooker replies. But if it can store its memories, who's to say that it can't send those memories back to its home planet? Krause asks. I don't know if that's even possible, says Cooker. It's not, Huey responds. We don't know that, yells a researcher from behind. Yeah, I agree with Rice. No, Cooker has a point. Soon the whole room was standing up and arguing. People crowd together, bumping into each other while discussing. A researcher backs into Huey and he stumbles forward. The tube falls and breaks on the ground. But everyone is too wrapped up in the conversation to notice. Huey scours the ground, searching for the thing, but it's gone. Stop! We lost it. The voices come to a halt. What do you mean? I dropped it, and now it's gone. So it's dead? No. We've seen what it looks like dead. It's just gone. Krause looks at Rice. Inform HQ immediately, Rice bolts out of the room and the door shuts behind him. The typically busy hallway was uncharacteristically empty. The corridor lights flickered, almost matching Rice's rapid heartbeat. Despite the urgent situation, he couldn't bring himself to move. Fear glues him to the floor. He has been in this hallway many times and researched many anomalies. He has no reason to be scared of this singular one. Even so, he couldn't bring himself to take another step. The meeting room door clicks. Rice swivels around, grabs the door handle, and pushes down. The door is locked. "Hey, why did you lock the door?" In the meeting room, Kraus tries to open the door, but he has no luck. "We didn't. It's locked from the outside. Just hurry up and contact HQ." This was the urgency that Rice needed. He sprints down the corridor, but his left foot gets caught on something, and he falls to the floor. He looks back to see the misshapen green substance, now grown to the size of roughly the size of a child, shambling towards him. A slimy tendril wrapped around Rice's leg pulls him towards it. "Help! Help!" But no one comes to save him. Its skin, if you could call it skin, ripples as it hobbles closer. The researchers inside the meeting room can only listen as humanity's curiosity kills Rice.